Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Black Logic. We have a special treat for you guys this evening. We have no other than Gregg Marcel Dixon. How you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Nice to have you on the broadcast again. Can you please introduce yourself to the family?
Yes, so I am a teacher of 21 years. I ran for office twice. I was not successful in being elected, but I was successful in accomplishing the mission that I set out to achieve. And that was taking the message that the fact that this country owes reparations to the freedmen, Black Americans who are descendants of those who were emancipated from American slavery, to on a national and international stage. I was interviewed by Fox News, Newsmax, Newsweek, Breitbart, Al Jazeera, Time Magazine, and I did that just by launching my campaign in my small town with no political experience, no machine, and no supporters initially at all.
Where did you run at?
I ran in South Carolina and U.S. Congressional District 6 against incumbent James Clyburn. I had a lot of things on my platform, but the linchpin of my platform was my better deal for Black America, which included reparations, among other things. It included compensation for land that has been stolen. It included returning the Freedmen's Bureau that would be like our own agency within the wider structure of the government, the same way Native Americans have their tribal governments, we would have our own. It would have made us independent from the federal government by giving us what we're owed, acknowledging our rights, giving us reparations for the wrong that had been done to us by the government, not coming from any individual, but coming from the government, and therefore letting us do what we have always done, make a way out of no way, but this time getting what should have been ours a long time ago.
Thank you, brother. I do appreciate that. And when you not getting into the heart of the interview just yet, but you say that the Freedmen's Bureau, is that similar to the Indian Affairs Bureau or Indian Bureau of Affairs? Is that similar to that?
Well, the Freedmen's Bureau actually was more efficient than the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The Freedmen's Bureau was established in 1865, and it was established pretty much to house, feed, clothe, educate, and help employ those of our ancestors, those of us who are descendants of the people emancipated from American slavery. It was done to help our ancestors find employment, get house, get treatment, pretty much to become on an equal playing field with white Americans after all that the government had done to them via slavery, via black codes. It initially was successful in doing that, even though it faced extreme opposition and there was corruption. But the mission of the Freedmen's Bureau was an admirable one. It was originally set up as well to help distribute the 40 acres in a mule that we were supposed to get, which started here in the Low Country, in the Georgia Low Country, over in Savannah, Georgia, which is 30 minutes from me. And some land was actually distributed and dispersed over here in South Carolina. But we know the story. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, and unfortunately, his very anti-black vice president would take over and will put an end to Special Field Order 15.
All right. So let's jump right into it, because I do want your thoughts on the relationship between President Trump and Elon Musk. How do you interpret the disengagement between those two, especially given Musk's creation of the so-called American Party and skepticism towards major legislation like the One Big Beautiful Bill?
Well, I knew the fallout was coming. To me, Elon Musk is a very insincere person. One, he's not an American. He has no loyalty to America. America, in his eyes, is just an economic zone for him to exploit. This man gets hundreds, if not hundreds of billions, at least tens of billions of dollars from the USA that helps him with his projects. A lot of people like to credit him with building successful companies. That's not the truth. He actually purchased these companies that were already up and running. Now, Does he take over them and probably does some things that are innovative? Yes. But a lot of these companies already have pre-existing infrastructure that he simply purchased. And a lot of times he was using government subsidies to purchase them. And he's not the brains behind a lot of operations. It's the people he hires. And the people he hires, by and large, are not Americans. This is a man who was advocating for replacing Americans with H-1B visa holders.
Correct.
If Kamala Harris had won the election, he would have been in her face and he would have been touting all of the Democratic talking points. It just happened that Trump was the person who was successful, so he was in Trump's face and he was touting all of the talking points that Donald Trump was promoting. He's not sincere, and I knew the fallout was going to come, and it came. We can say we want to say about Trump, you can like him or you can not like him, but Trump is the president of the United States of America. Elon Musk is not. So therefore, he deserves no reverence, and his voice, to me, does not hold any sway in American politics. Yes, he had a position underneath the Trump administration, and he abandoned that. Now, it was supposed to be a temporary position, and he was supposed to just see where we can cut waste. I don't even think that was executed properly.
Nope.
And as far as the America Party, it's kind of ironic that a South African with an East Indian treasurer is starting the America Party. Where are the actual Americans? Those of us who have lineage in this country. Like my family has been in this nation since at least, probably earlier, but since at least the late 1700s. Where are the people like that?
Well, I'm pretty sure majority of Elon's employees are from a certain part of Asia, India.
Yes.
To be to be more exact. Now, what are your thoughts on, as someone in your position, someone who has been advocating for reparations and systematic, equity for our people? What are your thoughts on such a very large federal package when it comes to the One Big Beautiful Bill? Does it move toward or away from the kind of justice that you may envision?
And I have not read the entire bill. As a matter of fact,
900 some pages. I read it, but I fell asleep.
See, I don't think anyone has. And see, it's 900 pages, and they make these bills so large and they make them so cumbersome to discourage people from actually reading the fine print to see what's in the bill. In one respect, it moves towards a system of justice. In the respect that is going to give ICE more money than most of the world's militaries, with the exception of the military of China and the United States of America. We need to get these illegal immigrants out of here. It's not even a matter of whether these illegal aliens are good people or not good people. I'm sure a lot of them are good people, but that's besides the point. The point is, you're in this country illegally, you've committed a crime, you committed a deportable offense, you need to go. The second thing is, there have been countless studies showing that mass immigration, whether it's legal or illegal, hurts the freemen, Black Americans who are descendants of those who were emancipated from American slavery, the most. That's a fact. It's been consistently shown. It depresses our wages drastically. It causes incarceration rates to rise among us. There's even some suggestion that causes our marriage rates to lower. Okay. It causes more competition for jobs that those of us who may not have a college degree would usually occupy. But for all Americans, it causes the cost of living to soar. We have a housing shortage in the United States of America. That's not the fault of people in the country illegally entirely, but they are culpable in many respects. Supply and demand. If you have a massive demand for a certain resource, in this case, houses, but you have a very small supply, if you have 20 or 30 million people who should not be here and they're occupying the few homes we have, that means the few homes that are still available, their price is going to be exorbitant. That's exactly what we are seeing. Then you have these greedy corporations who do not want to pay Americans a livable wage. So what do? The moment we start to demand a livable wage, the moment we start to demand things to which we are entitled as Americans, they say open the floodgates, and they want an endless supply of cheap labor. And when you have illegal aliens who will take these jobs for far lower wages, that discourages, it actually eliminates the incentives for these corporations to pay us a livable wage. Now, the illegal aliens are not to blame only. They need to be deported. Yes, they do. But these corporations, the people in charge, these corporations, they need to be held accountable.
The ones that hire them.
And the politicians who encourage illegal immigration need to be held accountable as well. And that's not just the Democrats, by the way. Republicans love cheap labor too. Remember, it was Ronald Reagan who did amnesty for illegal immigrants in the 1980s. So it moves us closer to justice in that respect. In other respects, to be honest with you, I can't say anything positive about it. One area where I'm very disappointed, they only did a 1% tax on remittances. That's insane. If you want to discourage illegal immigration to the United States of America, one of the things that happens in this country, we have people from Mexico and India primarily who send almost $70 billion back to their nations.
Every year?
Every year. They take from our country and send it back to theirs. Billions of dollars that should be going back into our nation, and yet they only gave them a 1% tax on remittances. It should have been a minimum 30%, a minimum. They didn't do that. So overall, I have not been happy with the things I've heard about the bill, but I don't comment much about it because I have not read it for myself, and you know how it goes. There's plenty of lies out there, but what happens more often than people just explicitly lying, you have what's called lies of omission, or people omit details. Some people leave out specific details, and it causes you to believe things that are not true. So I haven't read the bill myself, so I don't have a lot to say about it. But what I will say is what I've always said, that when America wants to pay for something, they find a way to do it. So no one's going to tell me they don't have the money for reparations. They do have money for reparations. That's how they're able to pay all these Native American tribes that are collecting checks right now. Right. That's how they're able to pay people, the downwinders, people who were exposed to radiation and their descendants, who are collecting all sorts of benefits, including monetary benefits right now. That's how they were able to pay the people who were taken hostage by the Iranians or their descendants, the Guamanians. Okay, that's how we're able to do all these monetary benefits for Holocaust survivors, even though we helped stop the Holocaust. Like people like my great-grandfather, who just died in September 2024 and never saw a penny of reparations. Like we're able to bail out these large corporations. Like we're able to pass almost $1 trillion annually for the military. This country always has the means to pay for things that they want to pay for. And one of the best investments this country can make is reparations for Black Americans. Because even though we may be a group that's largely wealthless, not to any fault of our own, we still have nearly or a little bit over $2 trillion in spending. Imagine what we would do if we received what we are owed.
When it comes to the One Big Beautiful Bill, have you been privy to the information regarding how Medicaid and SNAP is going to be cut, and supposedly anywhere from 12 to 16 million Americans are going to be cut off from Medicaid and SNAP? How relevant is that information? Is there any truth to it? Is the speculations from the different groups, because I've heard it from both sides. How true is that? Do you have anyone who's trying to fact find, or anyone who maybe be an accountant or an economist that may know how truthful that could be, or how that may turn out to be?
So one thing that's a person needs to keep in mind is that underneath Biden, supposedly 25 million people were kicked off of Medicaid. And now they're saying with Trump, they're saying, what, 11 million people, I believe, might be a little higher than that. I keep saying to myself, okay, if Biden kicked 25 million people off and Trump was kicking off 11 million people, who's left? Like who's left? Right. So what I heard, because I did hear about a lot of people potentially losing their Medicaid benefits, what I heard from a gentleman who was reading something from the CBO, what I heard is that, and CBO, by the way, stands for Congressional Budget
Office. Yeah.
What I heard is that people will not necessarily be kicked off of Medicaid, but they will have to do things to maintain their status. So some people may have to work, I believe, 30 hours every 2 weeks or 30 hours.
There are some requirements to qualify for Medicaid.
Right. There'll be work requirements. I heard that some people will have to submit additional paperwork. I heard that some people will qualify for other forms of Medicaid, but probably not the one they currently have. I heard that some of the people who will be kicked off are people in the country illegally, where if that's the case, then good riddance. You should not have been getting it to begin with. So there's a lot of arguments and counter arguments out there, and I have yet to do any fact finding, but that's what I heard from some man who was at a congressional hearing reading from the CBO's report.
Now, I know that you ran in 24 in South Carolina, 6th District, the same seat that James Jim Clyburn is in. Are you expected to run again in the future, or this next midterm coming up? When are you expected to run again, if any?
No, I am through with electoral politics.
Why is that?
Well, I feel that I will better serve the movement for reparations in another capacity. During my time running for office, I found out that I was trying to build a home before I built the foundation. I found out there's a severe lack of education among our people when it comes to civic education, when it comes to being able to advocate for why we are entitled to reparations, how we can get reparations, how the people in office like a James Clyburn could have been advocating for reparations, could have written a bill and advocated for us to get reparations using that bill, trying to get people to sign on to that bill, and he never did. There's such a lack of education. That is what we need primarily amongst our people. Now, I do feel there should be people running for office. There should be people who are speaking on our behalf and speaking in our interests. I also feel there needs to be people who are educating the general public. And I feel I will best serve the movement in that capacity.
Interesting. Should Black Americans, and again, I know we're not a monolith, but for quite some time, we've been voting Democrat for the past 60 some odd years. Should we divorce the Democratic Party and come up with a third party? Or I don't want to get into a third, fourth party because of Elon Musk, or should we vote in our best interest when it pertains to conservatism?
We should divorce the Democrats, and we should not marry any party. That's my attitude. No, we should stay single and ready to mingle. Here's my thing. We should be single and ready to mingle. And if you're not spinning the right game, then we're not going to reciprocate your interests. We should not be beholden to any party. Okay? The party should be beholden to us. We should not vote for any quote unquote lesser of the two evils, because evil is evil.
I agree.
I'm glad to see this past election. We largely either stayed home or we swung to Donald Trump, and some people swung to third parties. Now, by and large, any Black person who voted still voted for the Democrats. But a massive amount of Black people stayed home. And that's the part that's not told. You get these Democratic shills out here who like to say, well, 88% of Black women voted for the Democrats and 73% of Black men voted for the Democrats. No, 73% of Black men who actually voted for the Democrats.
Correct.
88% of Black women who actually voted for the Democrats. You're ignoring the tens of millions who did not vote at all. You're ignoring the fact that an article from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution said that if Kamala Harris had just seen a 2 or 3% increase in Black voter turnout nationwide, she would have won the election. Yeah. We caused her to lose, and good riddance.
I told people to blame me. I stayed at home.
Yeah, I'm the bad guy. You can blame me. You can definitely blame me. Yep, I'll take it. I'll probably take it. I'll do it again, too. Now, I'll probably take it. They have done nothing to deserve our support. We had 4 years in office, and there was nothing tangible done specifically for those of us who are freedmen. But they did things specifically for Native American tribes. They did things specifically for LGBTQ. They did things specifically for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, but nothing for us. I'll gladly take the blame.
I would say, as Black Americans, I think that a large majority of us has a very duplicitous mindset when it comes to voting, because they believe if we vote for the Republicans and we're voting against our own interests, where all this time we've been voting for the Democrats and we've been voting against our own interests. Because if you have
About to say
a
too
large,
late.
I'm talking about a very significant large group of people. We're talking about, I've heard reports of 11 million or 15 million illegal immigrants, and the immigrants all together. I like to split the two because there's a vast difference between the two because of their legal status. But nonetheless, if you have, let's just take, for instance, an arbitrary number like 11 million illegal immigrants that are getting, paid under the table. So they are depressing wages, and they're also getting some sort of subsidies from the American government that they've never given to Black American at the same rate and same amount that they've had for illegal immigrants. Then if you vote for Democrats, which they've been doing it under Joe Biden, and basically Kamala Harris said, no, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing that Joe Biden has done. So again, we would have been even in a worse condition that we are in today. And the one thing that I guess a lot of people, especially those concentrated MAGA group, they are very angry at President Trump because he's making an exception for farmers. And we know that a lot of farmers have a lot of illegal immigrants on the grounds. And I don't know necessarily how much they get paid per hour or per day, but just throwing out a number, let's take, for instance, they're getting paid $8 an hour. We understand that backbreaking work, 10, 12, hours a day, you have to pay an American at least $12, $15 a day. So I wonder if, the large corporate farms that have a lot of billionaire and investors behind it, and it gets to them. So when I think about all these existential circumstances of, not voting for the Democrats and, sitting at home, or some people voting for the Republicans, and now President Trump is changing his tune. And this is why, and to your point, probably one of the reasons why you're not running again, this is my conjecture, that when people become politicians, right, I believe all politicians become corrupt in some way. And I don't mean as though they're evil, but they have to compromise, meaning that you want this one piece of legislation signed into law, or you want it part of this bill, but you have to allow all these other things that probably work against your own interests and your constituents in order to get that signed. That's why I believe they all come corrupt in some form or fashion. What are your thoughts on? I know I said a lot there, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me say that with Donald Trump supposedly considering making exceptions for illegal aliens that work on farms and hospitality, I am completely against that. And you know what? We can learn a lot from the MAGA crew, because they show that they will rebel against Donald Trump. They don't feel the need to go along with everything he does, everything he says. You do have a segment of Trump supporters who go along with everything he says. He does go along with their eyes. But you have another segment that they are not afraid to rebel against him. They are not afraid to call him out. That's how we need to be as Black American freemen. And that's how we used to be. Okay? There is nothing these other groups do in regards to advocating for themselves, in regards to standing up for themselves, that we have not already done. We just forgotten about it. We've become this captured electorate for the Democrats. But I'm glad we're getting away from that. I love it. I love to see it. Second of all, when people think of farmers, they think of some, elderly gentleman wearing overalls, waking up every morning, going out there and working hard, and he just needs some help, so he's hiring some illegal aliens. No, a lot of these farms are exactly how you describe them. Large corporate farms owned by corporations, millionaires and billionaires who just want cheap labor because they do not want to pay Americans a fair wage. Americans will do any job because we have done any and all jobs. Right now, we do any and all jobs. Okay, right here in rural South Carolina where I live, we have Black American freedmen who work in the farms every damn day, who work in plants every damn day. We do any and all jobs, and we do a better job than the people in this country here illegally. Here in South Carolina, there's been several articles written about the poor quality of these new homes, largely built by these firms that hire a large workforce of people who are here illegally. These homes are built within a day or two, and they fall apart within an hour or two. When we build homes, like I know all of us probably have elderly people in our families whose homes have been standing for probably close to a century, and they're still standing and they're still sturdy. My great 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 grandmother's home is still standing right here in my small town. It was built over a century ago. Okay? That's the quality you get when you hire Americans. I'm not saying all of us are superior. No, of course you have those of us who have no work ethic. But they want us to believe that every single illegal immigrant that comes here has a halo over their head and a pair of angelic wings. No. If they had such high work ethic, a halo, and a pair of angelic wings, then their countries would be reminiscent and would represent that, and they don't. The third thing I want to say is, as far as being corrupt, I think it's the chicken and the egg. Do they become corrupt once they enter politics, or are they already corrupt and they enter politics? And I feel it's the latter. I feel that people who already have a propensity for corruption, for selfishness, are the people who tend to enter politics. I would not compromise. I had the opportunity to get backing from PACs, political action committees. One of them wanted me to compromise my views on abortion. I said no. Abortion has killed 20 million black babies and 70 million babies overall in the United States of America. I was not going to support such a genocide, and they dropped me. I had people who wanted me to drop my stance against illegal immigration. I said no.
Was this from the Democratic Party? Was there some PACs from the Democratic
Party? These
Party?
PACs were largely aligned with the Democrats, yes. Okay. I told them no. I said, not only am I not going to drop my stance against illegal immigration, I'm also going to come out against out of control legal immigration. And Correct. They dropped me. I had people who told me that they knew people who were considering supporting me, but they didn't like the way I spoke against mass immigration. They didn't like the way I spoke against abortion. They didn't like the way I criticized the Democrats. They didn't like some of the language I used, calling people illegally, using profanity every now and then. And I didn't care. Some of them didn't like
the president used profanity. Why can't you?
All of them do. Joe Biden did as well.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Joe Biden is accused of inappropriate sexual behavior by at least 2 women. I didn't have none of that, but they just didn't like my presentation. You see, a lot of us say we want something different. A lot of people claim they are unhappy with the state of politics here in the USA, and yet they want all candidates who are charging the system to be the same as the people who they claim they're unhappy with. That's what I learned.
Wow. I guess they just want people to be polished and groomed in the manner in which they, will want.
But they don't understand. A person who's going to conduct themselves in the same manner as the people you're trying to replace is going to conduct themselves in the same manner as the person you want to replace. You either want something different and better, or you want the same old, same old. And what I learned, a lot of people claim they want something different and better, but they really want the same old, same old. They want someone to pretty much, like you said, to be polished, to have the same demeanor as the people they want to replace, but to do something different once they get in office. What I explain to people, if you conform while you're running for office to be the same as the people you're trying to replace, they're going to conform once they get in office.
Very true. I do want to switch gears here just a little bit, because I want your take, in your view, how do one of the global crises, take for instance Ukraine and Russia, as it pertains to the United States funding Ukraine. There was a recent story that came out because I reported that, President Trump halted a supply shipment of weapon armaments to Ukraine. Come to find out, it was the likes of Pete Hegseth who slowed that shipment, and President Trump supposedly was blindsided. But nonetheless, what is your take on America's continuous support of Ukraine in their fight and war against Russia?
What I said earlier, when America wants to do something, they will get it done. They can spend trillions of dollars on illegal immigrants, and before anyone tries to say that they do not, they do. Illegal immigrants get all kinds of services, welfare, food stamps, Medicaid from the government. They get it through their children. They have these anchor babies, and then they're able to qualify for a type of government services through their children. But obviously, it doesn't go to their children. It goes to the parents who are here illegally. So illegal immigrants get trillions of dollars. Let's not even talk about the money that the federal government sends to municipalities to house, clothe, feed, and provide health care to illegal immigrants. They give Israel, Ukraine, and a host of other nations foreign aid. We are involved in conflicts that really do not concern us. When America wants to pay for something, they do. And the thing is, we spend billions and trillions of dollars on things that are not enriching our nations. They're not enriching us. They're enriching other nations. They're enriching people who are not Americans. Take that money and put it back in the economy. Put it in the pockets of the American people. See, I'm economically liberal. I'm not against that. We're going to spend it on the American people. Give it to the American people who will put it right back in the economy. That's my thought. And, the only thing about Trump that's a redeeming factor thus far is his stance against mass immigration. But he doesn't even go as far as I would like him to go. He does not. But he goes further than what Harris.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
He goes further than what Harris would have gone.
I know you're hard on illegal immigrants as I am.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of something I said today on my broadcast regarding one of the reasons why I believe that he has made an exception to the rule when it comes to slowing or stopping the deportation of farmers is just because the backfield, right? Agriculture, produce, all sorts of things will rise in cost, and then we need a new group to be trained and start to work these farms. Now, a quick solution, not a permanent fix, but a quick solution would be the 1.2 million people we have incarcerated. Also, the 1.4 million people we have homeless. You count out maybe a third of them because of mental issues, but a quite bit of them, let's say 500,000 of them could be rehabilitated. So we're roughly looking at roughly 2 million people that could enter the workforce here in the next year or two. And I don't see any plans of doing that because America, we're the most police state and we have the most people that are incarcerated in our country. So they get paid, let's say 25, 35 cents an hour when they're making license plate. They could possibly make $4 an hour working on these farms. Now, I know there have to be security measures in place, depending on the crime and or those group of people, but we can't say we don't have the workforce because we do. So believe me, I do take on eradicating America, and I know his first quote unquote verbal policy was to mass deport all violent illegals. And then, because he kind of changed his tune as he was running. First, it was like mass deport all illegal immigrants, mass deport illegal immigrants who committing the most violent crimes. So it's been changing throughout time. And I think that's why that really strong MAGA crowd was like, no, we voted for you because of these things you stated. They're holding him to his word as they should.
And good. Something we can learn from them.
Right.
That we used to do with our elected officials, but somehow we forgot about. We're getting back to. Well, let me say he hasn't yet issued any proclamation halting deportation of
he hasn't.
Illegal aliens working on farms and hospitality. And I hope he doesn't. But if that day comes, he's definitely going to get a backlash as he deserves. And I'm going to be right there among the people giving him that fierce backlash. 2, and this has been happening since forever. Every time there's a raid of a farm, a hotel, a plant, not even the next day, the next hour, there are actual American citizens there applying to do those same jobs that they claim Americans did not want to do. So if these farms were raided, 2 things will happen. 1, a lot of farms are becoming automated now or partially automated. And 2, there will be Americans signing up to do that work the next day, but you won't have to pay us fairly.
And to your point, I know that.
I'll say one more thing. That's an argument. I've heard people make the argument that you said. They mentioned the concern that you cited about the cost of things. Like, if we deport these illegal aliens, the cost of produce, for example, would skyrocket. And I believe that may very well happen, but our wages would skyrocket as well because having these illegal aliens here depress our wages. If they're gone, yes, there might be an increase in the cost of certain goods, but that's good because that means the wages will go up as well, and there will be an equalizing effect.
Absolutely. Because I know for a fact a lot of these plants, manufacturing farms, open up all these jobs. You're going to have Jimbo, Billy, Bob, Darius, and Daryl at the door waiting to sign up. And it may even help race relations because at one point in time, race relations was getting better to a point because we were working together. But now we're all siloed out again.
Well, I'll tell you what, here in my area, I am seeing for the first time in a long time, I'm seeing construction sites that are largely black or white. I have not seen that in a long time. I was seeing for many years a lot of people who probably were Hispanic. You know, there's no certain Hispanic look. Sometimes, you know, a quote unquote Hispanic person could look like you and I. They could be quote unquote Afro-Latinos. I don't know. But these people I'm seeing are our people. I can tell. And I'm seeing construction sites that are largely Black American or largely working class white Americans, how I used to see when I was a kid. So something's definitely changing, and it's a good change.
I believe it's a good change as well. Now, what's your thought on the relations between America supporting Israel in every conflict that they've been a part of? We're talking about Hamas in the Gaza region, in the state of Palestine, Israel against Iran, Israel against Houthi, Israel against anybody Israel feels as though they should attack. And again, we have to say it as a disclaimer. We are not being anti-Semitic having a conversation. We are discussing the relationship and the funding of a state. Now, I've heard and I've been informed that the reason why Israel is so important is because it's one of our few allies within that region. And it holds a strategic landmass as an impasse and that borders a lot of those Middle Eastern countries. And I always raise the question, what about Saudi Arabia? Don't we supposed to be friends or neutral or allies? What about Jordan? Don't we supposed to be friends, neutral or allies? So what's your take on that? The continual support of Israel, regardless of what they do.
I feel that we can criticize Israel freely without giving any disclaimers. We are not subjects of the Israeli government. I feel that we have given Israel enough. I feel like we've given them too much. And I am not one who feels that we should be indiscriminately supporting them. Okay? Now, I don't know all the details of the conflict over there, and I try not to get involved because I try to focus. You know, a lot of people say America first. I'm truly America first. So I try to focus solely on the issues we have here. It doesn't mean I'm oblivious to what's taking place in the world. I'm not. However, I will say that the images I've seen of what Israel has been doing over in Palestine are despicable. They're despicable. Now, once again, I'm mainly concerned what's happening over here in America. And if I want to deconstruct it further, Black Americans, freedmen in America. But what's being done to the people in Palestine is despicable. I'm glad to hear Trump say that he wants it to stop as well. But I feel that you have people who are elected officials here in America pledging fealty to Israel, saying that we must support Israel. No, the hell we do not. We must support Americans, and that's where I stand.
I do believe in America First agenda.
Yep.
It was a very bold stance because, I mean, stemming back from, I want to say even Bill Clinton or even George Bush, it seemed like America really got away from a lot of their policies. Like we really saw, like I started really looking closely at the foreign budget of the billions of dollars that we fork out to a lot of these countries for various reasons. We always have a special interest, whether it be minerals or resources or trying to keep that that country stable so they don't have an uprising, keeping their government intact so they don't create militia groups or terrorist groups. I understand to a certain degree, but it's so difficult to look at a homeless person. It's so difficult to look at downtrodden people, especially when they're foundational Black American, when they look like me and we're not getting that assistance from the government. I'm not talking about a handout, but if you're going to give them a handout, if you're going to give them assistance, if you're going to give them support, then why aren't you focusing on your own citizens first? I mean, they give people who, whether they're legal or illegal in this country, all sorts of grants and subsidies and support. And I'm just looking at the billions of dollars that of people that not even in our country that we cannot support. And it's for whatever the reason that the government deems. And this is the one thing, and I'll end on this. We keep stating that America is a democracy, and we kind of mix and match that word. Oh, is a democracy or is a democratic republic? It's all these other things. It's a republic. You vote somebody into office, they get selected, elected, they sworn in, whatever the case, and then that's it. They have all the power. That's why you don't appoint cabinet members. The president does. He appoints his own cabinet members. Like, you literally have no power once someone is voted in office. The only thing that we essentially can do, and I hate to say it this way, is cry, is complain. I mean, yeah, we can go to lobbyists, we can go to our congressman, we can go to our senator, and they may have an ear of the president. They may be convincing. They may be informative. They can do something. But at the end of the day, the president don't want to do something, and he has large enough of his appointees and or congressmen behind him. There's nothing the American people can do. What's your thoughts?
Well, one, let me say, I'm going to say something that's probably quite unpopular, but I don't care. I don't have any problem with handouts. America was built on handouts.
No, it is a socialist government. And a lot of people try to say, oh, it's a
America is a capitalistic socialist government. America was built on handouts. When they wanted to get people to move to America, they were handing out land to get them here.
Socialist.
When people fought in the Revolutionary War, they were handing out land to get them to fight in the war. When these corporations want money and need money, they are bailing them out with billions, trillions of dollars. Obama alone spent $29 trillion just bailing out the banks. That's not even including bailing out the auto industry, the aviation industry. Okay, I can go on. America is built on handouts. That's why you have some of the richest people in the world who gets all sorts of tax breaks. That's why you had Jim Crow for a century, where Black Americans, freedmen, were excluded from things like the GI Bill that pretty much built the middle class in America. 15 million white veterans received something around $2-3 trillion, and people like my great-grandfather, who was a World War II veteran, was excluded from it. America was built on handouts. My thing with a handout, if I give you a handout, you better bring in more than what you originally had. That's my thing. But it's been shown time and time again. When you give a quote-unquote handout to the American people, they always bring in more than what they originally had. What we do is give handouts to people who are located outside of our nation, to countries outside of our borders. That's the problem. Number two, there's a whole lot more we can do. I feel that we as Americans are way too passive. It says that we have a right to alter or abolish any government that becomes abusive or tyrannical. And I don't feel we take that to heart enough. That doesn't mean we, launch insurrection. What that usually means is that people can exercise their right to run for office, something that more of us can do and probably need to do. If all of us are unhappy and all of us have the same grievances and all of us feel that the government should be doing this, then why is there not someone who from among us will stand up and say, well, I'll run for office and I'll do this, and those of us who have the same grievances as that person support them? So there's a whole lot more we can do. We're just not doing it. But even outside of that, sometimes just making phone calls, sometimes showing up to those town halls and giving these elected officials a piece of our minds. We don't even do the basic things to hold these officials accountable, and we're ready to throw our hands up in the air. Where our ancestors, hell, our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents, they really had to go through the fire to get to the other side, and did. Here we have just the basic things we can do: make phone calls, show up to town halls, write letters, go to their offices and speak with their aides or speak with them, and we won't do that. But too often we're ready to throw our hands up in the air and give up.
When does the fight end?
Well, it doesn't. That's the thing. The moment we think the fight has ended is the moment we get the kind of government we have now. That's the problem. You see, we got too relaxed. We thought, okay, we can go to the movies. We can go see Beyonce in concert. We can go see Kendrick Lamar and SZA in concert. I can eat out every now and then. I have a nice little apartment. So we think we've made it. You see, that's the problem. We think the fight has ended. And now we're seeing everything has gone deeper to hell in a handbasket. The fight does not end. I remember when I was running for office, people would say to me, well, how do I know that I can trust you to do everything you say you are going to do once you get in office? I would say to them, you don't trust me. That's the whole point. You're not supposed to trust me. You're not supposed to have faith in me to do what I say I'm going to do. You're supposed to say, I like what you're saying. You have good ideas. You seem to be a person of character and integrity, but I'm going to hold you accountable to do what you say you're going to do. I'm going to be on your tail if you don't do what you say you're going to do. What you want to do is look at a person's actions. Their actions. Do their actions show that they are a person of integrity? Do their actions show that they're willing to stand up for what they believe in and not compromise even under immense pressure? I did that. Okay? That's how you measure whether a person is probably going to do what they say they're going to do. You look at their actions running for office, while under pressure while running for office. But you don't ever say you trust them and you just sit back. Yes, you can have faith in them. That's fine. But you don't ever have so much faith to the point where you think you can sit back and your job is done. No. Now, once they get in office, you stay on their tail and you do not relent.
I do have an account of staying on your tail of something I saw you do that I do have a question regarding. You showed up at James Clyburn Fish Fry.
Okay, yeah, that was years ago.
I know. I'm just messing with you. But no, I do have some questions regarding going back to immigration because that's
that was a fun time.
That was a fun time.
He cursed everyone out.
Did you get you some fish?
I did.
How was it?
All right.
Okay.
It wasn't.
Was it seasoned?
It was seasoned, but it wasn't too great. I could have done better.
Okay, it was free.
Way better fish, but that's the day he cursed everyone out. Yeah, he cursed everyone out. Yes.
God damn it! I don't care. You got that damn fish sandwich.
No, he said, "Why y'all f with me?" So yeah, that was that day. Yes, I remember that day vividly.
I do have a question regarding this immigrants in general. That's always a hot topic for a lot of people, just because we have so many within our country, legal and illegal. And as Joe Biden would say, this country is a country of immigrants. That's what he was saying. But it's something you said here that many immigrants, melanated and non-melanated, are anti-Black. What was you alluding to? I mean, I know what you said, but can you expound on that just a little bit?
Yes, it is well documented.
Okay.
Whether a person's from Latin America, even if they're Afro-Latino, Asia, Africa, the Caribbean, Europe, it's well documented that many groups come to America with biases and negative prejudices against Black Americans, even though they benefit from our civil rights movements. For example, the military has plenty of people who are immigrants and non-white immigrants. Right. We all know, and the military used to exclude a lot of non-white people from military benefits. We fought to make sure those benefits were accessible to everyone. When it comes to qualifying for certain jobs, you could have been overqualified and you would not have gotten the job. We fought to make those things fairly. So a lot of groups come here and benefit from our civil rights legacies while having negative preconceptions and misconceptions against Black Americans. And they try to use the excuse, well, America makes me hate you. America shows a negative image of you. That's not true. America actually shows a respectable image of Black Americans. They try to talk about movies that show us living in the hood, those old 1980s, 1990s type movies. Right. But we also have Muhammad Ali's and, Dr. George Washington Carver and
Moses West.
Yes, right. He's a recent one. We
Yeah,
have Dr. What is her name? Dr. Green, the lady who invented the nanotechnology to kill cancerous cells. I have to find her name.
I know who you're
I
referring
write
to.
about her all the
That was
time.
within the last 8 years or so, I
Right,
believe.
I have to write her. I have to find her
Right,
name. I'm
right.
sorry. I want to give her props because
Oh no, by all means.
she's one of
But
our.
I wanted to lead to, why do you think that a lot of immigrants, regardless of where they're from, come here with what seems to be either a colonized mind or white ideologies, and they speak down to Black
Doctor, I'm
Americans?
sorry, her name is Dr. Hadia Nicole Green,
Nicole Green. Okay.
who has created what is possibly the most effective treatment for cancer. We have all kinds of icons in all areas, whether it's athletics, whether it's the arts, whether it's science, whether it's fashion, throughout the world. So no, you can't blame it on America. And even if America did portray a negative image of us, if you are going to a country, it is your responsibility to educate yourself about that country and that country's people. Now, I'm sorry, what was your question? I just had to get that.
No, I was just saying on the anti-Black sentiments that they have in a lot of immigrant cultures around the world. Now, I have some thoughts of why they have the thoughts that they do about Black Americans, whether they come from colonized countries, which a lot of them do.
Mm-hmm.
So they tend to cling to white ideology for, handouts, trinkets, all sorts of little things. But what are your thoughts? Why do they come here and stay, even though they may learn about our culture? Because again, you have one group of people saying we don't have culture, even though they're actually operating within our culture, right? And when it comes to, like, say, for instance, East Indians, Jamaicans, Nigerians, Ethiopians, you have all these people, Kenyans, Ghanaians. And I've been to Ghana and Kenya, and very nice people. I can't say that all of them are like that, but it seems as though a very large group of them, when they come here with anti-Black sentiments, and they're very public about it as well.
I've been to all those countries you just named. I've been to Ethiopia. I've been to Kenya. I've been to Ghana. I've been to Nigeria. And yeah, I was treated very well over there. Right. I think that there's two things that happen. I think that one, America, well, there's three. I think one, America likes to promote this whole immigrants built America. So when you have people immigrate here, they start thinking that they are the bee's knees. They're the cat's meow. They start thinking that, hey, we are the reason this country exists. So y'all are privileged to have us. They start thinking that they've done us a favor.
They built the country.
Immigrating here, right? Because you have Americans who like to say, well, immigrants built the nation. Now we all know the history behind that immigrants built the nation slogan. That was a way to try to discredit Black Americans for our essential role in building this country. We know that's how that whole saying started. So I think that's one. I think this country gives them a false sense of entitlement, a false criticism falsely with doing something they did not do. And even if there were immigrants who, quote unquote, helped to build the nation, we know they did a relatively small role. And even if they had done a large role, the immigrants of today are not those immigrants of that time period. Okay. Number two, we already discussed it, but there is perhaps adoption of anti-Black Americanism that they have adopted because they want to have proximity to whiteness. And in their minds, the closest way to get close to whiteness in America is to look down on Black Americans. Because unfortunately, I've traveled to a lot of different countries, and a lot of people will say, oh, I see America as a very racist country. Oh, America's very racist. America's very racist.
But they're not racist to you. They're racist to us.
Right. People associate racism against Black Americans with America. Right. So if they come to America, they feel, I want to assimilate the whiteness because they associate whiteness with wealth. And the quickest way to do that is to look down on Black Americans or to criticize Black Americans or talk about the flaws inherent to Black Americans. And number three is that, well, a lot of people, I'm not going to say everyone, wants to feel superior. And the way to feel superior is to look down on someone else. And in America, historically, a unifying factor has been to look down upon and degrade Black Americans, even though we have typically accepted any group. We fought for almost every group. I'm glad we're stopping that as well. Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, W.B. Du Bois, Barbara Jordan, all of those Black American icons told us about the dangers of immigration. They didn't say illegal either.
And Dr. Claude Anderson.
Yeah, Dr. Claude Anderson. A lot of them told us about the dangers of immigration, especially out of control immigration. And they were right. So a lot of our ancestors, our grandparents and great grandparents, people from those generations, they saw these things. So us being good on immigration, or at least mass immigration, is not new. We just forgot it. We're getting back to things that we should have never left. And that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. I do want to ask you about some of your visual works. Can you just briefly give us a small synopsis of like the debate wars and tethers? What does that mostly encompass? What are the main topics of when you're talking about debate wars? What is that about?
Debate wars are just a conversation that was facilitated by a guy who did very bad business practices, Drayon Blackett, so I don't really support him any longer. He was supposed to pay me for my part in some film he was doing. It was a film about Black inventors, but something I'm very passionate about. He was supposed to pay me one amount, and then the next day he tried to pay me a much, much smaller amount. So I don't do business with him anymore. But Debate Wars and I told him, I don't know, that AI generated image of me I didn't like, and he never changed that. But I told him I told him to change it, but I think it was too late. It had already been published and approved by whatever, Amazon, according to him, but he didn't tell the truth often. But it was a conversation between a woman who was from Israel. I think she was biracial. I don't know what her ethnicity was. I guess she had some African ancestry and I guess some Euro-Israeli ancestry. I don't know. A guy from the Congo, a guy from Nigeria or Ghana, and we just talked about different issues amongst the diaspora and here within America. Okay, that's the debate wars.
Tethers, interesting.
Tethers is where I describe and explain what the term tethers mean. People think tethers just means, any Black person who is not a Black American, a freeman. No, tethers, the term tether is based on actions. You are a tether if you are a Black immigrant or a descendant of Black immigrants who works against Black Americans. That makes you a tether. And I'm pretty much breaking that down in the documentary.
Okay. Man.
And dismantling some talking points, by the way. Some of those talking points, like, we work harder than Black Americans, or Black Americans be further ahead, and how come we can come here and get ahead right away? Or I dismantle all of that in that documentary.
I mean, you dismantle a lot. I hear a lot of your segments when Tariq Nasheed posts a video from his X account when he does those. I don't know what he calls them.
His Twitter
Clubhouse is similar. Yeah.
Yes.
And I listen to a lot of those, and I hear you chime in on a lot. Very informative. And your YouTube channel. Are you still posting on your YouTube channel? And matter of fact, people, make sure you go out and support Marcel and his YouTube channel. But the brother needs to post more videos.
I have not posted to that since, and even when I was running for office, I really posted to it. Mm-hmm. But I last posted to it, I believe, would have been like around October. October 2023, maybe. Mm-hmm. So I haven't posted to it in a while, but if anyone wants to see some of the commercials I did and, some segments from a debate that I attended was really a forum, then they can definitely go to that channel there.
All right. Is there any place else that you want people to support you and follow you on? What are you, as a matter of fact, what are you up to nowadays? Since you're not running anymore?
Well, when I first ran, I told people, don't remember, and that's fine because people have their own lives. I told people that my director of the school where I was teaching, she did not invite me back, and she said it was because I was an angry black man. So I've been representing myself in that case. So I've really been working hard on that case, but it's about to go to trial. So I've been preparing
regarding the school system.
Yes, it's about to go to trial, federal court. So being
wow.
that I'm representing myself, I've been really dedicating a lot of time to that. It's not hard. It just requires a lot of research. So that's what I've been doing. There's another case, too, where a unscrupulous individual stole campaign funds. We didn't necessarily steal it. He did fundraisers for my campaign, but he never sent the money. So that case has been ruled in my favor, but I'm not quite done yet. I have to go to what's called an assessment of damages. I did that on my own as well. So I've been handling some legal matters that occurred when I was running for office, and I've been doing it by myself. I don't have a lawyer. There was a lawyer helping me, but he was helping me in some, but he's disappeared. So I've been doing it all on my own. So I've been dealing with that, and of course I've been working, trying to get myself back on my feet, because it was sacrifice running for office.
Well, other than your YouTube channel, and your Instagram, how can people reach out to you and contact you?
Well, I'm mainly on Twitter, or quote unquote X, even though I don't ever call it X. Marcel, the number 4, Congress.
I'll make sure I pop that up here very quickly for the people. So I think I have you.
And I don't post daily, but I do still post.
How often do you post?
I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe once or twice a week. Sometimes I'm posting several times a week. Sometimes I'm posting several times a day. It just depends.
Okay. And you're still is this still active, this particular one, when you were running?
Very active. Very active.
All right. Well, thank you, Marcel, once again for coming to Black Logic with all your insight and your knowledge. And you're just a powerful brother, man. I just wish that the people, we wasn't, as a group, wasn't so ingrained into just a lot of old rhetoric that people were following, especially when it comes to South Carolina and your district, that people were getting behind. They probably just, again, I think if you would have did something to counter James Clyburn fish fry, I think the fish fries have really put him over the top for some reason. I don't know why.
No. What happens is, first of all, I forgot the amount, but only like 9%. 9%. And that's at a high turnout of people in my district come out to vote.
Wow.
Okay? Like 3 to 9% on average. So the majority of people in my district do not come out to vote. Now, during a presidential election, it is higher. So It may have been higher this past election because, Trump, when Trump is on the ballot, people come out, whether to vote against him or to vote for him. Number 2, people always think that it's the black people in my area voting for Clyburn. No, it's a lot of white liberals who vote for Clyburn. A lot of white liberals want Clyburn in there because he's going to do their bidding. He's going to do what they tell him to do. So a lot of them come out to vote for Clyburn. Number 3, I may have gotten a lot of attention from the new black media, and I may have gotten a lot of attention nationally, like, Fox News and all of them invited me on. But I still had a hard time getting my name out locally. And even though I did phone banking and I was able to contact thousands of people and I sent thousands of flyers and I made contact with hundreds of people, that's not enough. When you're running for office, you have to stay in people's faces constantly. You can't just talk to them once or twice or 3 times. You have to be in their faces again and again and again. When you're working full time and you don't have the money at your disposal, that's very, very difficult to do.
Very important.
So there were issues in regards to infrastructure that I had that prevented me from getting my name out there. But I'm not disappointed. I got reparations out there. And let me tell you, I can show you on my phone people who are elected officials here in South Carolina contact me to ask me for my opinion about legal matters. So I got the message out there and I'm proud of what I've done.
So you turned into a lobbyist.
that's kind of what people are, not by choice, but people are giving me no choice. They call me and ask me for my opinion and what they should do, and I give them my opinion. Now, whether they follow it is up to them, but I give it to them.
Well, thank you, brother. Once again, I do appreciate your time and your knowledge. Do you have any last comments or statements you want to make?
Not at all, but thank you for having me. I enjoyed this.
Likewise. Thank you guys for joining me here on Black Logic. You guys have a great and wonderful evening.